Hello out there. Welcome, 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 everybody. Hello, welcome to another live stream here from AutoCrit. I am so excited because our slogan for 2024, yes, 2024 is a great time to be a writer. It will be a great time. We're thinking in the future, right? It will be a great time to be a writer. It is a great time. I'm going to show you today how the writing desk is going to ensure that 2024 is your best writing year yet. So we set out here around AutoCrit to focus on the 5 P's that we like to talk about, and that is prepare, pen, ponder, perfect, publish, because these are really all of the steps of the writing process. So preparation, figuring out what it is that you're going to write, and then penning it, actually writing it, putting the words on the page, getting your thoughts across, right? And then there's a little bit of pondering. What did I write on the page? What do I even have? What is this, right? How do I make it better? And then we have the perfecting of it. Now that we have figured out what it is that we were trying to get across, and we have looked at, maybe you could call it the developmental edit side, now it's time for the line editing side. And then finally, we polish it up for publishing as well. So it's a very exciting place to be here around AutoCrit, and it could be a little bit of an overwhelming place to be at times, because we just have so much to offer. And so I thought it would be fun today to take a little look under the hood of the writing desk, look around, and I'm going to take you through these 5 steps in order to show you how you would experience this yourself if you want to join us in the writing desk and in the AutoCrit community. So we're going to start at the preparing stage. So if you were logged in the AutoCrit main page, you will come to the home page and you can go to story ideas and go right into building an idea. So we don't even know what it is we're going to write just yet. And the AutoCrit writing desk helps you with such. So if I go to new story builder idea, immediately I'm going to be brought to a screen that is going to show me. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It'll be a little bit easier to read. Aha, there we go. Um, it will give me some suggestions. It's a great template. And it actually has a database of suggestions that you can use in order to get further inspiration if you need it. So you could use this just as a template and figure out what your story premise is, your world building, character building, even down to the beat sheet level, and just formulate your thoughts. Or if you're not entirely sure, perhaps you could start with a story premise and get some ideas. So I could say, a man buys a cactus and realizes the cactus is really good at predicting the future. All right. That is my premise. And so I could scroll down here and I'm like, oh, who's the protagonist? I could get it to generate me idea and it's going to give me some suggestions. Meet Alex, a struggling artist who longs for recognition and success in the competitive art world. That's not too bad. Let's try another one. Meet Thomas, a down on his luck office worker looking for a meaningful connection in his life. All right, who might be an antagonist? Who might be an obstacle for this situation? Mr. Branson, a quirky and eccentric neighbor who becomes envious of his cactus power and he determines to get his cactus for himself. All right, fair enough. Let's go with this, right? And so then we could scroll on down and we, of course, could fill all of this out, get more and more information. The more you put into the different boxes, every time it generates an idea, it's going to keep that in mind. So if I changed it from Thomas and I said his name is David, and then I reran the antagonist, of course, it's going to give me a whole brand new antagonist, but it's going to create Mr. Stevens, who's jealous of David's newfound happiness. So as long as I've replaced everywhere where Thomas was there, it's going to give me David as well. And I could even go back to the premise, and I believe it should recreate my premise. Maybe not. I think actually a premise always gives you a brand new one. So there it is. Okay. David's life takes an unexpected turn when he discovers that his newly acquired cactus has the ability to predict the future. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So isn't that cool? Well, we can go further. We can go down to the plot beats, right? Now we have multiple beat sheets that you can use. So I could say, again, I'm just going to take these ideas and I'm going to tinker it with myself. And so I'm going to say, all right, the call to adventure is when uh, David realizes his cactus can, oops, sorry, cactus can predict the future when it tells him that it's going to snow, right? And so that would be what I would actually establish as the inciting incident. And then I could say, well, the debate is going to be, well, he's going to maybe debate whether or not that's the case, right? He is debating between keeping the cactus to himself or not. Now, I could change it to the inciting incident is something else. I could ask it to give me a suggestion, right? And so this one, it says it predicts he will bump into a mysterious woman. Now, what if I wanted a different sort of plot? What if I didn't want just a regular plot? What if I actually wanted this to be a mystery? Well, at this point, the mystery revealed plot would change and create a different scenario. Now, David returns home, discovers cactus missing and a trail of peculiar prickly spine leading to Mr. Stevens' backyard, setting off a mystery where the missing cactus becomes the key. So now the whole story is about who stole the cactus, which of course makes a lot of sense if we take those characters and we make it into a mystery. What if we made it into a romance and we had a meet cute? How might it adjust that? Well, it's going to say he accidentally bumps into Emma, an ambitious botanist. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Considering what I put in, that perhaps the meet cute might be a botanist who would be very interested in a cactus that predicts the future. So you can see there's so much here that'll give you different ideas, and there's different ways you can handle it. It's at your level, right? Do you want it to give you a bunch of ideas? Do you want to just use it as a template? Do you want to adjust what it is? You can change it. I could say, I don't like Emma. I'd rather her name be Laura. I wouldn't want her to be a botanist. I'd want her to be something else. You can tinker all you want. As you work, it'll save your idea automatically. Of course, it's always a good idea to name it. So I could call it Cactus Idea. And now at any moment, I can come back to, I shouldn't have picked cactus. It's hard word to spell lie, right? Cactus idea. And any moment when I want to come back, the cactus idea is back here and I can continue building in it. Now, let's say I love this cactus idea. I want to go with it. I'm going to make it into a story. So I can hit these three dots and then I'm sorry, it's going to be back here. I can hit these three dots and then I'm going to say, write this idea in a new file. And what that means is now it's going to create a document for me. And all of those notes live in this document. If you go to inspiration and you go to story builder, lo and behold, all of these notes are here. Now you could say, all right, Daniel, that's all well and good, but why does it help me to have notes in a big folder that opens up and covers my whole screen? Well, now you can actually export it into noteboards. So I would hit this button and then I can export all of it into a single note, or I can export the individual notes. So let's imagine I want to have the meet cute. So I could hit the note button and it'll move it to my notes. And here I have a little note board. So now I have a little note board on the side with all of my ideas in one spot, right? I could generate multiple ideas, have multiple notes, so I could have multiple meet cutes, and I could decide which one I wanted. The sky's the limit, right? And there's all different kinds of uses of the note board besides just your ideas. So, for example, if you're taking any of our AutoCrit workshops, you could be putting note cards from our workshops in the note board as well. And so you could have different writing tips. You could have images of inspiration. You could have, again, the sky's the limit. It is an open canvas for you to use as you want. All right, so we have our workspace set up. Okay, we have the notes on the side. I'm going to go ahead and move them out of the way for now. So I have just a nice clean document. Of course, at any moment, I can pull them back over to the right, but I'm going to just start writing. So I can, of course, type, but I also can use the little dictation feature right here on the right. So I can record my speech and then it'll dictate it for me if I want to do that. But let's say I'm just going to go ahead and start writing. So I'm going to say, a man walks into a store and buys a cactus. Now, immediately, if you were paying close attention, in the upper right, you would see, look, I've added 10 words today. Well, isn't that nice? It tracks it automatically, right? So we have a word count feature. Now, of course, a part of writing is accountability. It's not just about having ideas. It's not just about writing. It's about staying on track and staying the course and writing on a regular basis, right? So we can be tracking along the way automatically with this little word count and timer up here on the right. Now, if you didn't like this, if you're like, this is going to distract me, you can get rid of it. You don't have to keep it. But if you keep it up, well, you get to decide. Do I want to show the add and deleted? Do I just want the overall world word count? Or do I want a daily goal? Right now, you can see the 10 is in red. The reason why is I haven't hit my daily goal yet. But what if I made the goal 9? Whoop, it's green. I did it. I hit my goal, right? And it's very subtle. It's not going to give you fireworks or something crazy and distract you. You might even get to the goal and not realize it, and then you look up on the upper right, and you're like, "Aha! I did it!" Right? And that's a lot of fun. Now, the writing timer is an extra tool to again keep you on track. So if I show the writing timer, immediately it's going to bring it up, and you have two options. You have a sprint, or you have a Pomodoro. A sprint would just be a straightforward amount of time. So I could say, let's do zero point 0.2 minutes. So it's not very long. It's just 12 seconds, right? And it's just going to count down and it's going to let me know when the time is up, right? Now, Pomodoro is the principle that a writer tends to work better, and you can see it turn green. A writer works better when you are divvying your tasks. So you're not just writing until you get frazzled or burnt out. You actually are writing and then taking a break, and then writing and taking a break. Of course, the problem is what if your breaks are too long? You're just going to lose all your momentum, right? So the Pomodoro method allows you to schedule that. So you can have so many minutes and so many minutes for duration and so many minutes for a break. So again, I'm just going to go really short here just to demonstrate. So I'm going to say zero point 0.1 minutes, zero point 0.1 break. So that's only 6 seconds. And then if I hit play here, start the timer. So it's going to count down those 6 seconds. And then when we get down to the bottom of the 6 seconds, it's going to turn green and you can see those cute little Z's. This is your break time. You can go off and do something else. And then I could see, oh, it's coming back. Yeah, writing in sprints or writing in the Pomodoro, which are like sprints with breaks built in. And it's just going to keep going back and forth until I pause it. Now, the other element of this word count settings is positive reinforcement, and that keeps up with how fast you're writing at any given moment, and if you're keeping up your word count there. All right, but let's go back to the document. All right, that's enough with accountability, right? We've got our accountability method set up. We're going to use the Pomodoro method every day. We're going to keep rolling on. So, what are some other things the writer's desk can do for you while you're writing? So, for example, if you write this, a man walks into a store and buys a cactus, you may reach a point where you're a little bit stuck. You're like, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. What could happen next? And you can, of course, get ideas from the Inspiration Studio. So up here on the upper left, you see what happens next, right? If you hit that button, you're going to have ideas from what happens next. And it's your text at the current cursor position. Now, it's not going to read your entire story for context, but it will read what is, within a small window right there and give you and some suggestions. And we try to bucket them into different ideas. So it's not just random suggestions. So for example, imagine you wanted to heighten your tension. It would say a man notices a suspicious looking person walking him out of the store. So that makes sense. Revealing character motivation would be as the man walks out of the store with the cactus, he overhears someone talking about a rare and valuable plant that has gone missing. Unexpected twist would be he accidentally drops the cactus and he finds precious gemstones. The most likely, of course, is just kind of the most likely what would happen. He takes his purchased cactus home, places on his windowsill, and then the outlandish would be aliens. Now, often Outlandish does give you aliens. However, if you regenerate, you might get some other ideas as well. And we're working on continually adding different suggestions. Here we have he realizes it was actually a magical plant disguised for a regular one. So, something crazy and different. It gives you an idea of what could happen next, right? Now, another thing that could come up is as you're writing, and of course, it's going to tell you as you close, unless you save these ideas, you can always export them into a note, or you can just remember them, of course, and start writing them. Um, so another thing that might come up is you say, okay, I wrote this scene where the man walked into the store and bought a cactus, but it's not quite getting the mood I want. Now, this may not be something you would do in a first draft, but certainly in a second draft, third draft, you might, and you might in a first draft, right? Want to make sure the mood is coming across because you want to build on uh, that mood, that emotional state, right? So you can go to change the mood, and the same thing will happen. It'll be your text at the current cursor position. Now we have a little mood board for you. You don't have to actually think this through, right? You can just kind of find your waves. You're like, I'm guessing he's a little bit fearful. Maybe he's feeling a little bit weak. He's feeling a little bit insignificant. All right. And so then it's going to give you some suggestions on how you could write in that, some suggestions on how you can dramatize that emotional state. You all know the rule dramatize, don't summarize, or at least you would if you took our workshops there. Or show, don't tell, a lot of people say, right? But we want to see it on the page. So as the man walks into the store, a chilling breeze cuts through his thin jacket, causing him to shiver involuntarily. The dimly lit interior of the store casts eerie shadows on the shelves, making everything seem more ominous. He hesitantly approaches the display of the cacti, their sharp spines glinting in the low like menacing weapons. With each step he takes closer to them, an unsettling feeling creeps up his spine. So these are all great ideas, right? You wouldn't necessarily want to use all of them. And again, this is inspiration, right? Different things around. Anxiety tightens its grip around the man's heart. He whispers feel his ears as if mocking him from unseen corners, etc., etc. To be honest, yes, it's going to get a little bit purple if you use every idea from here. This is the Inspiration Studio, right? We're not just putting it right in your document. It's not like a button and all of a sudden it's like generating text to just throw in there, right? Because it's just ideas. And we want you to be the writer, right? But sometimes we get a little bit stuck. Sometimes we don't really know the best way of conveying a certain emotion. So think of this as, a real-time emotion thesaurus based on what you're writing on the page. And you'll do well on that in terms of the way you're going to utilize it. And again, it's going to warn you that unless you extract it to notes, you're going to lose that information, right? It's all going to disappear into the ether. So if you want to hold those ideas in your head, you'll extract them into notes, and the notes will live on the right-hand side. All right, so that being said, let's move on, and let's imagine that we've written all of this. So we have the first draft done, right? And this is a book that I actually wrote. So here we go. A first draft done, 66,000 words, right? All right. So we have it all done. What is the next step? Well, typically as a writer, what we're going to look at is what did we actually write? Maybe you didn't use a lot of story ideas to build this. Maybe that's not your MO. Maybe your MO is just pantsing and you have like a one-word synopsis and whatever. If you did that, of course, along the way, you could keep notes as you go so you could keep track, right? You wouldn't need all of those ideas in advance. So every time you mention something magical, if you write fantasy, you could say, oh, well, I need to write that down. Or every time you mention a character, you'd be like, oh, I need to write that down, right? And so then by the time you get to the end, you could have a whole note board full of notes, right? But you still may not have the best idea of even what you wrote, right? What even is this? We didn't start with an outline. Wouldn't it be great if we could have an outline so we could developmental edit? Well, that's where the story analyzer comes in. So if we go up to summary and we go down to story analyzer, it'll pull up this window. And now we can analyze our story. Now, I did jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to step back a little bit. in order for the story analyzer to work, and this is a little bit of a technical thing, you do technically need to orient your book into chapters within the writing desk. Now, keep in mind, when we say chapters within the writing desk, this doesn't mean actual chapters necessarily. That is just the nomenclature we use to describe the buckets that Story Analyzer is going to use. Rather than just make up a term nobody knows, like segments or something, we went with chapters. Somebody asked, what if I write short stories? If you write short stories, then the issue is just the length of the words, the amount of words. So I generally don't recommend going over 5,000 words in a chunk, right? Because when it's analyzing and it's going to give you that outline, it's going to do a better job if there's less. And most people don't write chapters over 5,000 words. So if you write 5,000 words, it can do more. Technically, the limitation is 10. But like I said, I think it goes a little bit better with less. So, if you write a short story and it's 5,000 words, well, then you wouldn't even need to worry about it. You would just say chapter one and then move along. If it's more than that, then break it up. And you could title it whatever you want. Now, if you title it chapter one, chapter two, chapter three, whatever, even though they're not technically chapters, the advantage to that is the system will automatically find it. So we have a little system here. If you go down to chapters and you say auto find chapters, you hit that button. And now, bing, all of my chapters have been found. And so when I go to the story analyzer, it will see all these different chunks. Okay. But again, you don't have to use this language, right? We're just calling it chapters because we need a term for the pieces that the writing desk is looking at. Okay. And if there's any questions, feel free. I'm watching the comments going on along here. Do you need the title breaks as chapters? Yes, you will need to either auto find it or establish it manually in order to break it down. Because if you have too big of a section, the story analyzer will just say, I can't do it, or it'll struggle. So, and like I said, 5,000 is a good spot. All right. So anyway, so now that I have it in the story analyzer breakdown by chapters, again, it was very effortless, right? As long as you just put chapter one, whatever. I can hit a button, and now the story analyzer is giving me all kinds of useful information. It's telling me the synopsis of chapter one. It's telling me things like the conflict and the characters and the world building and possible contradiction events and timeline and foreshadowing and plot thread and genre analysis. These are all very helpful things. These are all the things you would hope a beta reader would tell you, right? Unfortunately, beta readers often can only focus on one thing at once. We're humans, right? And so they may not notice all these different things. Or they might have pet peeves, or they may just not be your audience. This is going to try to make you the best you can be, right? It's not going to try to rewrite anything. It's just going to bring up what it discovers. So things like the foreshadowing events. In this book, I had a incident at Brown Hood High during a GMO procedure. The GMO procedure is kind of the big MacGuffin, or whatever you want to say, the big plot device of the story, right? And hinting at potential dangers or complications. Yeah, that was totally intentional. I brought that up because I want the audience to wonder, how safe is this GMO procedure, right? Now, imagine I didn't want that. Imagine I wanted them to feel confident about the GMO procedure. Well, then the fact that the story analyzer viewed that as a foreshadowing, I might be making a false promise to the audience. I might be misleading them, right? And that's bad. And so I would want to be like, just like a beta reader, right? If a beta reader came back and they're like, well, what's going to happen to this box? What's going to happen to that person? And you might be like, I didn't mean that to be anything. I just thought it was something interesting in the background, right? So it's something to pay attention to, right? It's going to look for those things. Now, you can take a deep dive on all of this if you don't really like the results, because again, it is thinking about multiple things at the same time. You can narrow into a specific thing. So I'm going to go ahead and redo foreshadowing, and it's probably going to give me some more because it's going to really zero in on that. See, and now we have 5. So we have things like Rose's hesitation and doubts. Absolutely. The chilling image of the older woman with tears streaming down her face. Yep. It absolutely nailed it. These are all things that I intentionally put in as foreshadowing, right? So this is great on the chapter level. And even things like contradiction events. Now, it didn't find none in the overall look, but I'm going to zero in and I'm going to give it another go. And here we have some potential problems. So it says Rose expresses a strong conviction to never surrender to a system, and then yet later she doubts her decision. This is true. This is an intentional contradiction. Rose is literally debating within herself. She's having an internal battle. So, correct, story analyzer, you called me out, but it is an intentional contradiction. Now, imagine I didn't want to do that. Imagine I didn't want a character that waffled. Again, it would be pointing that out, and I would realize, hey, early in the chapter, the character said, they're really hungry. And later in the chapter, they said they had too much to eat. That's a little bit weird. It notices those things as you go. So it's super helpful in all of these different categories. Now, you can, of course, run this at the very end, but what if you don't want to do that? What if you actually wanted to run this as you were writing that first draft? And the reason why is because you want to get the satisfaction as you go, and you also want to know about the promises you're making to the reader. Now, of course, I can run chapter 1 as soon as I write chapter 1. And then I can see kind of what did I do? And that might be a nice thing to do before I keep moving forward. Particularly this plot thread tracking I love, because this is telling me what a reader might be most concerned about after reading that chapter. And then I can be like, how long do I want to wait to pay that off? Do I want to kind of get right into that in chapter 2? Or do I want to wait a little bit longer? And if I am waiting a little bit longer, how much do I need to let the audience know? I'm going to give them the answer eventually. Just hold off, right? Perhaps, right? But let's keep going. What if you write chapter 1 and chapter 2, and you write chapter 3, right? And you write chapter 4, right? And so we have all of this data. Now, I haven't told it to examine chapter 5 yet. It does not know what's in chapter 5. So if I go to the story analysis at this point and I look at something like the plot thread tracking at this point, um, we would see overall what is going on in the entire book. Now, this is in beta, so I think we're working behind the scenes right this second because this is all very new. This just launched like a week ago. It's very exciting. But anyway, so then the idea is that it would give you a whole plot thread of just those 5 chapters. And then it would give me all of these questions these are the unanswered questions the audience might have right now. Now, with all of this, you'd be like, okay, Daniel, this is all well and good, but what do I do with all of this? It's just sitting here in this window. Well, there's a couple of things you can do with it. For one, you can extract it to notes, just like with everything else. You can extract it, chapter 1 into notes and everything. You can also export it into an entire document in of itself. Right? So imagine I want a document that's just all of the story analysis right in one page. And I can maybe have that. Maybe you're like me and you have 2 screens and you want to have that open on another screen or another window or something like that. You can totally do that as well. But of course, you can have that as little notes. Like imagine I want to take this contradiction event or foreshadowing events. I can export it to a note and then it's going to go on the noteboard on the side. And as I'm doing my rewrites, as I'm doing my edits, I'm like, oh, these are my foreshadowing events. This is what I'm going to be focusing on as I do my little developmental edit. And again, everything lives in the same. You may have noticed my text disappeared. It's still there. I just did scroll down. Nothing went away. All right, so we have the sense of, at this point, we've done a first draft, maybe we've done a second and third draft of all those developmental edits. I mean, you could take the story analyzer and be like, I want to look at all of the foreshadowing, right? Extract all the notes, go through all of your book. Chapter 1, did it, delete the note as you go, however you want to stay organized, and then do a pass on that. And then you could go through all of the character things, bit by bit. But let's move on. The next stage, we went past the pondering stage, right? So we've done prepare, pen, ponder. Next would be perfect. So we have the work. We know what the story is. We're very confident about the plot structure, but we want it to sound as nice as possible. We want the word choice to be the best possible. So what does the writing desk do for that? So we're going to take a next step, and we're going to look at the overall summary report. And so we would go to the summary report, and the summary report is encompassing all of the particular reports you have up there that are line editing reports. So you have pacing and momentum, dialogue, strong writing, word choice. These are all reports you're going to do in the polishing stage and the perfecting stage, right? So if we bring up our summary, what it's going to do is it's going to compare your word choice and all of those artistic choices you're making to works within your genre. And it'll tell you where it's similar and where it's not. By the way, Elevation Day is the working title of this book. You will not find it if you look for Elevation Day. Um, the overall score, you can see it's a 90. That seems very high. It is very high. Generally speaking, over 80 is quite high because that means you're very similar to the expectations based on all of the data we have. Now, you may not care about being lower than that. You might be like, you know what? My book doesn't really fit the normal pattern. Okay, that's fine. Again, it's not telling you what to do. It's just telling you where you are, right? What do you have? But what it can do is it can show you specifically where you deviate from typical. So something like slow paced paragraphs. You can see I write I have extremely fast paragraphs. I do not have a lot of slow paragraphs. I only have 0.4% in the entire book. Now you might say, "Wow, Daniel, do you really need to write that frantically?" Um, I do. I like it like that. That's my style. If I was comparing against a specific author like Andy Weir or something, you would notice it'd be much more similar. But generally, no. Yes, I write very fast. I also write a lot less words per paragraph. I also write less words per sentence. Again, these were all artistic choices, but you could say, well, do I actually want to do that? I have more dialogue than average. Did I mean to do that or was that an accident, right? I have very few adverbs in dialogue. Now, we all know adverbs, the road to hell is paved with adverbs, right? I got that drilled into me. And now I avoid them like the plague. Maybe I overly avoid them, right? You can see I have much less adverbs than normal. Now, showing versus telling, I'm right along the same filler words. I don't have a lot of passive construction. Again, did I get a little clever by half? Am I avoiding passive too much? And you could say, why is that the case? Well, you can watch some of our videos in the past and we talk about why passive can be helpful, right? Number of cliches may be a little bit higher than normal. Anyway, so you get an overall view, and then you could decide from there, where do I want to go on? Rather than like, I don't know which of our 30 reports to pick, right? You could get an idea of the low-hanging fruit. Where are you dramatically different than the average? So let's look at some of these on a specific level, right? How do these reports work? So let's look at the filler words report. So we did establish I have less filler words than normal. I'm not sure how visible that is. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. It might make the display look a little strange, but I just want you to be able to read it on the screen. Okay. Obviously you wouldn't organize your workspace like this probably because you don't need to display it on the screen for other people. So you'll notice that not only does it tell you where all your filler words are, it describes everywhere I'm using filler words, right? It also tells me where I'm using filler words more than the average. And the nice thing about that is it can tell me where my verbal tick is. And of course, you can see where my verbal tick is. It's just. Now, when I wrote this book, I didn't have the AutoCrit writing desk. And I got it pounded into me about the filler words of that and very. And as you can see, it says I did a good job. There aren't a lot of that's. There aren't a lot of varies. But just was not one that was on my radar. I just didn't think about just. And so I've got a lot of them. Now, I don't have to blanketly pick all of the justs and just get rid of them in one swoop, right? But what I can do is hit this little check and it's going to give me all of the justs in context. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit more now so you can see more of the texts, perhaps. Here we go. So it says, she just wants to prove I'm a good girl. That's one of them. I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. It's not just that I'm being just the way I was born. I just, it does seem like I'm overusing the word, doesn't it? It seems like it's a bit excessive. Now, sometimes filler words are actually necessary in dialogue. because we do not speak that succinctly. If you want dialogue to be portrayed realistically, it's going to have filler words because that's how we talk, like ums and whatever. And you're not necessarily going to always include them, but there might be a reason you want all of the that's, right? All of the varies, all of the justs. So, what if I could see what's easily dialogue and what's easily not in context? Well, you can. On the right hand side, there's a little highlight dialogue button. And now I can see, oh, this is in dialogue. It might make me reconsider if I care about that. And maybe I would start looking more towards the jests that are not in dialogue, like here. Now, this is a very close first person. It's a very deep point of view. So maybe I still want it to stay very conversational. And maybe I would decide that's a verbal tick of the character. Like Rose uses just a lot, and that's just the way she talks. Look at that. I'm doing it now. But again, that's a choice, and we would be able to see that it's an intentional choice, not just, not just. Now I'm just doing it all the time, not because I do not have other words in my arsenal, because I certainly do. All right. Here is a good question. Can we use all of these tools if we go the traditional publishing route? Now, there's a lot of questions about things like can you use large language models, for example, right? AI for that. Some of the tools in our writing desk do use large language models, particularly Inspiration Studio does and Story Analyzer does. And the Smart Thesaurus does. This does not currently use a large language model. But it is our goal whenever we use a large language model to be using it in the way that is established as AI assisted and not AI generative. Now, it is generating ideas, but our intention is not that it generates the idea in a way that you just like slap it in the text, right? And you're no longer having to write. Currently, none of our tools do that. And so, based on how we understand Amazon's rules, for example, so if you're self publishing on Amazon, it would be considered AI assisted, not AI generative. In other words, you would not have to disclose the use of the tool based on Amazon's rules at present. So, that is a good specific question to ask. And yes, all the writing tools in one place. That is our goal. We're constantly adding new tools as we get requests for them. Okay, so I have my filler words, right? That's one of the reports. That's certainly not all of the reports. There are many, many more. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of them, but there's a couple of others that I would like to demonstrate. So one would be phrase frequency. This is a report that it'd be impossible for you to duplicate. You might say, all right, filler words, that's all well and good, but I can run a macro in Word and I can make that happen. I can make my own word list, but you can't do this. What this does is it literally looks at all of the words in your document and it tells you when you're overusing phrases. Right? And you'll notice this is not giving you a suggestion because it's not comparing you against anybody. This is simply looking internally at your own document and seeing when you use phrases frequently. So shakes his head. We have it here, 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 here. I've shaken my head here. There's a lot of shaking heads going on, right? Why would I want to always convey disapproval that way? Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would like to phrase it a different way. And I just never thought about it. I've never thought about the fact that somebody says that over and over again. Even something like the parking lot. Maybe I want the parking lot over and over again because do I need to get clever by half and keep using different synonyms in order to equal the same thing? Or maybe I don't. Maybe I actually do want to phrase it differently, right? Because I have opportunity to not just restate the same thing in the same way. I could do it some way, somehow else. Question. Would you have to state your work as AI assisted if you started it here, but you're only working Grammarly to improve it? That is going to be based on the contract, to be honest. I mean, there are some organizations that are very particular about what kind of tools you can use. And to be honest, I don't as somebody who works in the industry, I don't even find it completely clear. And I'm not trying to like throw anybody under the bus or something, but sometimes they're like, you can't use anything. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of confused because can you use a spell check? Because I'm assuming you can. And so it's very unclear. I do think Amazon's policy is quite clear. And based on what I understand about Amazon, you do not currently have to disclose it. It is only when you're using generative text that you do. So, no, the answer is not at all, at least as it stands at this moment from my understanding of the situation. But as we all know, these tools, large language models, are rapidly evolving all the time. I have no idea what's coming in the future. But what the nice thing about AutoCrit is you get to decide how you use the tools, right? So you could do everything I just mentioned and go through all of those steps and the story ideas and the story analyzer, but you could say, you know what? I don't want to use Inspiration Studio tools, right? I want to think of everything myself. I don't want to use Story Analyzer. I only want to use human beta readers. Well, there's nothing to make you do that, right? We have those tools available if you so desire. If you use these reports that I'm showing you right now, these are not, like I said, these are currently not based on a large language model. So it's completely different. This is just based on our own database. It is a completely different system. And in this one, it's not even based on a database. It's just based on your specific work. It is not even looking at anything else but what you have, right? Because it's not comparing you against anything else. All right. Let's move a little bit further. Let's look at something like sentence variation. So, again, this is a great report that looks specifically at the work that's right in front of us. And sentence analysis is very helpful to see visually. And this is something that would be very difficult for you to generate on your own. But look at this. I have my nice little heartbeat. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Now, typically in fiction, you are going to make intentional choices, right? You are going to say, I want to have a longer sentence, not just because I can't say it more succinctly, but for an artistic reason, right? I am trying to make you focus on something. You'll notice there I had a 20-word sentence followed by a 2-word sentence, right? I too try to have a fair amount of variance in my writing. But here we have a 22-word sentence there, and that's an interesting moment. 27-word sentence right there as well, where somebody is trying to figure their way around and then they're starting to talk and things like that, right? And so it does make sense when I'm using these longer the sentences. But what we particularly be looking for is not necessarily, well, here's a 1-word sentence, right? A 1-word thanks, and then later mom. I just say mom. Did I want to do that? Is that overly dramatic? I could make that choice. But we're also trying to look for is any place where there's a bunch of flat, right? The last thing you want is a flat line because that's going to create a rhythm repetition in the audience. If you're like, the man walked to the store, then he saw the eggs, then he picked them up, then he went to the checkout, you could just do that unintentionally and come up with a sing-songy rhythm, and that's going to be very boring to the audience. So looking at the sentence variation report, and again, this is just something that looks at what you have. It doesn't tell you what to do. It's just a visual readout, but it's a very helpful one because it's one of those things, again, when you look down the list and you see, oh, it goes boop, it's just like a dead body, right? You don't want it to flatline. You want it to thump, 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 right? You don't even want it to be a lot of little ones. Then it's like you're rapid firing and you're shooting somebody, right? And you don't want to do that too long either. The analyzer is cool, but you have so many plot holes. Uh-oh. That can happen, but aren't you glad you found them? The other great thing about the analyzer is if you can do it in advance, well, that means by the time you get to a beta reader, you are not giving them all those plot holes, right? It's fantastic. All of these tools are really, really helpful in order to be the best writer you can be, right? And even when you're trying to get feedback from editors, if you want to take it to the next step and hire an editor or use a beta reader, you're going to be presenting your best work, right? And a lot of you, of course, self-publish, and you might find it difficult to afford to do a full level developmental edit, all of those things on a regular basis. as well. Can the story analyzer be accessed through the pro membership? Yes, everything that I just demonstrated to you is in one spot. The writer's desk is one package. We don't like piecemeal it out. You don't have to pay extra for one or the other. And if you get lifetime, which is the current offer that I'm about to share with you, you will be grandfathered into any improvement in the future. Okay, so we never want to leave you behind. We don't want to be like, oh, well, we have this really great new feature. Unfortunately, you have to give us more money. No, we want to introduce new features and make them available to everybody. And if you go on this channel, you can see it. You can keep us honest, right? You can see years ago, the platform looked very different. We had a massive upgrade last year. Of course, we're adding more and more upgrades as LLMs are available and allow us to do more for everybody. And we're going to continue, as technology improves, we're going to continue to evolve our writing tools, because that is our goal. Our goal is really to be, and I love how somebody said it, the one-stop shop for all of these tools. Now, there was something else I wanted to show you. I'm going to run another report here in just a second here. You can see this is a 66,000 word document, right? And I'm running this in real time. So it is giving me all of the generic descriptions. So it is going to take a moment, but you can see it is not very long in order to look at my entire book. And look, what's my problem? Look, not a shock, right? Look is a generic word that we use all the time. There are multiple ways to describe looking at something: gazing, staring, etc. And so I could decide that I want to go through all these excess. It says normally you would expect 55 in a document of this size. I have 116. That seems highly excessive to me. I do think that was a verbal tick that I would need to examine, right? So, imagine this. I nod, but I can't shake the haunting look on her face. Well, let's imagine that I see that and I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit at a loss. What could I replace that with? Well, we do have a thesaurus. And of course, everybody's seen a thesaurus before, but we have a smart thesaurus. And so when it gives you suggestions, it is in fact going to give me suggestions in context of that sentence, right? And it's going to give me it's going to show it to me. So it's going to say, can't shake the haunting expression on her face, gaze on her face, countenance on her face, appearance on her face, and things like that. It's not just going to be a random list of synonyms. It's actually looking at the context and trying to give you synonyms that make sense for that context. So it's just going to save you time. It is a lot less options. Yes, haunting gaze and expression, right? R. McNeil came up with the same words. So look at that. Somebody mentioned Grammarly. As you're writing or during your work on your book, you always have grammar options here available. So you can see this little G here on the right. Yes, you can hit that button at any time and it'll bring up our whole screen and you can run grammar reports in little chunks. You may realize if you ever work with Grammarly, it's very difficult to see a lot of text at the same time. And so we have to give it to it in little bits. And so you go through your writing in little bits and it will detect all of the problems that it can discover. And again, just like normal Grammarly, you can decide what rules you accept, what you don't, because we do violate grammar on purpose for artistic reasons all the time. What is the learning curve for becoming an expert? I would say, and I'm not just saying this to my own horn, I do think it's very intuitive. However, we are always available for you. We do have a lot of tutorials that help with this, and we're always available. In the bottom right, you can see this little I'm kind of highlighting it here. The bubble, the speech bubble, you can always talk to us. Of course, we also have office hours that come into play, and I haven't even gotten into some of the other benefits you get as being in a workshop. I mean, being a lifetime member. Excuse me, you mentioned workshop, so you pulled me into that. But we have clubs. So weekly clubs, we have Mondays is mystery, Tuesdays is sci-fi fantasy, Wednesday is horror. And in addition to, of course, talking shop, talking writing, we're always there available if you want to come in and you want to learn more about the writing desk itself. We're always happy to talk about it. And that's part of your membership as well. And that's a lot right there. A weekly live interactive session with somebody like me. Tonight, I'm going to be looking at doing live feedback one on one. So it is that human element, right? We're not expecting the writing desk is going to take away the human element entirely. That's why we're here too. And we'll give you that live feedback, right, on a regular basis. And you can always show up and experience that as well. I appreciate our lifetime members coming in here. Yes, very intuitive. I really do think so. We think about you, of course, when we design it. We want it to be functional. We don't want it to just be, oh, this is really cool. It could do all these things, right? We want it to do all the things in a way that makes sense, that's logical. Again, I kind of went through it step by step here. It helps you prepare, pen, ponder, perfect, publish. Those are all the things that we are trying to hit, all those things that we are trying to utilize here. All right. Do we have any other questions about anything I've shown you? Because I'm happy to demonstrate some other things. We are, in fact, live. This isn't like taped. I am, in fact, in the studio right now. Um, I do have to say we have a terrific lifetime offer right now for Black Friday. Black Friday wrote its best plot twist ever. And the best plot twist is you can become a lifetime member for only $299. And that is good for life. Like I said, we have had lifetime members and they bought a while ago and they got all of these great new tools that we just released. They can speak to that and you can see it. You can go back in time, like I said, and you can see everything that we offered back in the day. Now, I'm saying this, not only is this a Black Friday deal, but you may have noticed we have a lot of tools at your disposal. We do a lot of things. We're trying to do even more and more and more. And so, yes, prices are in fact going to go up after Black Friday beyond the fact that it's a sale, right? It is going to, this is an act now sort of moment. We are on the crossroads of doing some major things, and it will change the game. So keep that in mind as well. Now we do have another lifetime offer, or not a lifetime offer, a Black Friday offer that I would love to talk about, and that is our all access pass to our academy. So the Academy All Access Pass is going to enable you to see all of the workshops, all of the courses, all of the learning material that we're going to have throughout the year. So hold on here. I need to jump ahead. Yes, so things like showing versus, I'm just going to go through really rapid fire. Showing versus telling workshop, first chapter workshop, pending passion romance course, deep POV workshop, heroes and villains workshop, character chemistry workshop, fight scenes workshop, unmasking mystery plotcraft workshop, heart of romance plotcraft workshop, the end game about story endings, O'Crummer Women Writers Block workshops, magic systems workshop, story sorcery fantasy course. All of these things are part of the all access premium pass. Now, currently, if you were to get all of these things put together, it would be a fair amount of money because it's a lot of material. It's 24 courses, it's 24 workshops, 10 courses. Each workshop is 3 hours live session. Each course is 4 live sessions plus a lot of extra material. Tons and tons of material. But we have created some great offers for you. You can buy them on a monthly basis, a pass, and that would be $75 a month or $900 for the year. Or you can get our special Black Friday deal, which is 90% off of the entire retail value, and that is $587. Or if you're an AutoCrit Pro member, you get $100 off of that, and it's $487. Just the workshops and the courses to the end of the year is more than the value of the pass, or more than the value of the pass, because just between now and the end of the year, we have showing versus telling, deep point of view, first chapter, romance, horror. Just those put together is more than the value of the pass. And we even have the writing Gothic fiction, which is it's a self-study course, right? But somebody was asking about are they recorded if you can't make it? Yes. Also, we have multiple times. Now, we know that people are all over the world, and that's awesome. I love interacting with authors all over the world. So, we have tried to create a different type slot based on your schedule. Excuse me. So we have 8 p.m. on Sundays for the workshops or 11 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the workshop. So the way it's going to work is the first session of a workshop will be Sunday at 8 p.m. Then the first session will repeat on Tuesday at 11 a.m. And then the second session will be Thursday at 11 a.m., followed by the Sunday at 8 p.m. So you could either do both of the Sunday courses, right? Back to back. You could do Sunday, Monday. You could do Monday, Tuesday. I'm sorry, Sunday. Sorry. Let me start over. I'm getting too excited. Sunday, 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 Tuesday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Sunday, right? If you want to mix and match and see them all. And if you don't want to come live because that's not how you work, maybe you're like me. You're like, I like to move fast. You may have noticed I like to move fast. I often watch YouTube, at 2x speed. Feel free to do so. It's a little bit tough watching me at 2x speed sometimes. But yeah, feel free. You can watch it later on, all of the recordings. As long as your pass is active, you can go back and replay anything that comes up over the year, right? So all of 2024, if you miss a workshop, if you're on vacation, if you're not really sure if you're interested in the workshop and you just kind of want to dabble in it, yeah, you can see all of the recordings as well. I love this. It's like an MFA with only the useful stuff. Thank you, Tim. You're so sweet. Is there a live Q&A at each session? Absolutely. That is a huge portion of it. These are workshops. These are not videos where I just sit there and I tell you all of these rules. Who needs that, right? You can find that anywhere. No. These are live interactive sessions where I give you the guidelines. I try to speak in a broad way so that the guidelines will actually fit you, right? They'll actually apply to what you are literally doing. And also, you will have the opportunity to ask me questions. We have people that are nonfiction writers, right? And they take some of these and they're like, I took narrative tension. Why? Because we're still writing a narrative and it still has tension. I don't get to just make up whatever, right? Because I'm writing a memoir, but I still need to know how to present it well. I still may need to know how to present romance well if it's in your memoir. You may need to know how to present a mysterious situation, et cetera, right? And so I understand all of that. I have no expectation, even if I teach the fantasy course, that everybody in it is going to be writing fantasy. Some of you may just be writing about paranormal or unusual things happening, right? Or you just want to experiment. You just like the fun of it, right? You just want to be inspired. So all of that is understandable, and that is how we build it. So yes, live feedback, live interaction, that is why we do it this way, right? It would be honestly, it would be so much easier for us to just be like, you know what? We do our workshops, we recorded them. Let's just put them in the vault, sell it. I don't have to show up or anything. That would be easier, but I would hate that because I wouldn't be able to interact with you. I wouldn't be able to help you as an author. And it wouldn't be as valuable to you, to be honest, right? And there may be some of these principles where you may not feel like, all right, Daniel, I don't really need to sit down and kind of learn everything about it. I'm pretty well versed on it, but let's get a little bit deeper. Well, fair enough. Come to the workshop and be like, all right, I know all this. I just need to know how it applies in this situation, right? Particularly in the second session, that's how we're going to begin. We're going to begin the second session of, all right, you have the baseline rules of this, right? Now we're going to put it into practice. And before we even do that, grill me, right? Grill me about how this might apply to your work. This is what I love to do. I am a story doctor. I am a developmental editor. I love helping artists find their vision, find their story. So, absolutely, for sure. This is so sweet. But see, again, I could just cry. You're so awesome. But anyway, that is the all access premium pass. It is really a tremendous deal. When they presented to me what the deal was, I was kind of like, Well, that's a lot of value we're giving away. Okay. Like you know how to run your business. But no, it's great. And I just love the opportunity it's going to give everybody. It's going to give the opportunity because there are some of these workshops you may not have even wanted to go to. Let's be honest, right? You might be like fight scenes. I don't write violence in my books. Why would I do that? Right? I don't write anything like that. But you might show up and then you might get some ideas because maybe you will have something. Maybe you'll have a moment where there's a physical altercation. Maybe you'll decide, hey, I don't feel as uncomfortable writing about this now because somebody has mentioned it. I don't feel as uncomfortable writing a romance subplot because I don't want to do the cardboard cutout, lame, woman in a fridge sort of thing. I want to do it real, right? And we have instructors like it's not just me. We have Kara Crescent, who's a fantastic romance author, and she gets into it. She gets into the psychology of it. It gets steamy. It's so much fun. We have Gareth. He is great at horror, right? He gets into the details, and he is not squeamish about talking about the nitty gritty of horror in terms of the mechanical or the artistic side, right? He's very much an open book on that. And so it's just so much fun. Anyway, I don't want to just rant and rant and rant. We are coming up on the hour. Thank you so much. Again, as a reminder, tonight, if you're an AutoCrit Pro member, and certainly you can become you can certainly become an AutoCrit member right now. Click the link, and you can join us tonight automatically. Just get right in the thick of things, right? At 7 p.m., we're going to have a fantasy club where we're going to give live feedback. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., we're going to have a horror club led by Gareth. So immediately with that pro membership, you can get right into interacting with us, interacting with the community as well. And of course, if you get the all access premium pass, you immediately will have the writing Gothic course unlocked. Plus, we have showing versus telling, often a quoted rule, often misunderstood. We have that starting out on Sunday. But before I leave today, I do want to say we're not forgetting YouTube as well. You might be like, all right, all right, all right. I'm just sitting on the sidelines. I like AutoCrit's channel because you give me great advice. That's fine. We have nothing against anybody who wants to join us on this level. Next week, we have a kickoff for a new writing challenge. So join us for that. We are going to be announcing all of the details next week, 1 p.m., and that is open to everybody. Members, non-members, family members, dogs, if they can sit on a keyboard and do a good job. I don't judge. Anybody can be involved in the challenge. So it's a great time to get involved. Tell your friends and family, get involved in the Black Friday deals before they expire, and subscribe, like, hit the bell for this channel. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. You have a wonderful week. For those of you in the United States and are celebrating, happy Thanksgiving. I will see you on the side of your carb and turkey coma, and you have a wonderful week.